You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Well, hey, the lads! See what I did there? Well, hey, the lads! What's going on, you beautiful people? Welcome to Three's a Crowd. I think we're like episode 6, maybe 7. I know I missed a couple
9.
in there, but is it 9? Is it? Oh my goodness,
episode
I'm
9. Yeah.
I had to avoid Ted for a little bit. Look at us go.
One more, and we're better than Star Wars.
We are. Well, there you go.
What maybe get Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill.
Just as many followers.
Welcome on in Northeast Footy podcast, where we cover everything covering football in the Northeast. It is me, Rye, for the Borough. We have got young, beautiful Steve Wraith. There you go. You're waiting for which way I was going. Steve Wraith for Newcastle United, and the old goalkeepers, top of the league, Ted the MACKEM. Mate, how are we? Good to see you, boys.
Oh, all good. All good. Good to see you too, man. What's with this tribute to Bam?
Yeah, well, get out of it. Listen, I've got to start off with last night. What a game it was. We saw Sunderland taking on Leeds at the Stadium of Light.
And the referee.
One of the biggest howlers I think I have ever seen in goalkeeping history. Let Sunderland get to, a point on, in a game that they shouldn't have. It was going to finish 2-1. And Perot was onside. But I'll let you tell us from a Mackem's point of view, mate, what you saw in that game, because I think it had a bit of everything.
It did have a bit of everything. Strange to say that's still not the weirdest goal scored at the Stadium of Light. Obviously, courtesy of the beach ball incident, which shouldn't have stood, by the way, apparently. But there we go. The referee, let's start with him first. He was conned into a free kick. Honestly, the standard of refereeing in the Championship, let's be honest here, referees are just people who are crap at football, right? It's people who just want to enforce the rules. They're crap at the game, so they're going to spoil it for everybody. Same as PE teachers. They're not good enough to be sports people, so they become teachers of it instead. He was a disgrace, the referee. Conned into a free kick just before Leeds' second goal. Fabulous tackle from Mundell down in the corner of the Leeds area. Got given as a free kick. The Leeds took it quickly. The referee then missed a handball in the build-up to the second goal and still allowed it to stand. It was just absolutely... Rodon's a cheat. Let's be honest here. Rodon's an absolute cheat. He shouldn't have even been on the pitch. He was the last man. He dragged the player down and he got a yellow card for it. Absolutely incredible. It's normally in these circumstances with Meslier, massively unlucky. Yes, I take that. But it was justice served. He'd been time wasting since the 16th minute. They were having little conferences every time they took a goal kick and things like that. It was just that brown stuff housery that Leeds United are famous for. Nobody should have sympathy for Leeds United whatsoever. They got what they deserved. To be honest, they got a point more than what they deserved. Sunderland absolutely bossed the second half. I thought, for me, Job was exceptional, absolutely exceptional. That kid's just getting better and better. His shooting boots weren't quite with it this week, but yeah, he was fantastic. Right across the team, there were some really, really good performances, to be honest with you. I said, as I was leaving work yesterday, I fancied a draw. We hadn't drawn a game yet. But look, we're going into the what?
And the Desmond. Bring it on.
Yes, bring on the Desmond, absolutely. Look, let's be honest, we'd have lost that game last season. We absolutely would have lost that game last season. Instead, we're going into an international break, played 5. This is the home form. Played 5, won 4, drawn 1, and only 2 goals conceded. For me, that's what's required if we're going to be in the hunt for promotion at the end of the season. I think it's a cracking way to go into the break. A very, very entertaining game. Yes, that goal. If Alan Brown's trying to claim that, then he's a braver man than me, because that was just it was just bizarre. Just bizarre, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like you say, it had everything, didn't it? It honestly
did.
Up again.
No, honestly, Yeah, no, honestly, and one of the craziest, goalkeeping errors I've ever seen. Steve, I'm not sure if you've seen the footage, mate, but Mesler having an absolute howler last night to keep.
Yeah.
And we're going to say this between us, right? We can just black out this side of the podcast, right? They're still top of the league because of it.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that was a draw, and it was statistically it was a fair draw. I know, Ted, you are going to be slightly biased. You're at home. You're a Sunderland fan. You're thinking better of it. But possession-wise, if we get into the stats, Leeds United had 52% possession, 49% possession to Sunderland. But listen to this: almost equal on everything. 14 shots for Sunderland, 15 for Leeds. 4 on target for Sunderland, 4 on target for Leeds. 7 off target for both teams. Passes, Sunderland 434, Leeds 470. Clear-cut chances, both had 1 each. The only thing that Sunderland really massacred Leeds on last night was corners. 8 corners to 1 and 2 offsides to 0. Aerial duels, 17-11 in favour of Sunderland. Tackles 1, 8-10 to Sunderland. Unbelievable, really. Goalkeeper, 3 saves for the Leeds keeper, none for Sunderland. And fouls 1, 16 to Leeds, 11 to Sunderland. So 3 yellow cards each even. Unbelievable game. It was good, again, another good advert for the Championship. And I think Sunderland have got the rhythm. That's what I've said probably since we started this podcast and this season, that they do have that rhythm. And it's a key, keeping the rhythm during the season. You've got to keep the momentum going. You can afford to lose a game in the Championship. You can afford to lose 2 games in the Championship. But, it's getting into that rhythm. And Sunderland seem to have found it. And I don't think they haven't lost 2 games back-to-back yet, which is important. If you can bounce back, that soccer AM word that became part of the dictionary, bounce back ability, that's the most important thing in the Championship. And at the moment, Sunderland could find themselves slipping down the table today, results dependent, but the league isn't decided in October. And Sunderland are finding a way. And that
should be.
And that's the key. That's the key. And Middlesbrough, again, have got that. They found a way to bounce back from the Derby defeat. And that's the key. You found a way to bounce back last week. And that's what you've got to continue to do. And Borough, 14 points, win today, go 2 points behind Sunderland. So exactly. That's how tight it is. And that league at the moment doesn't have a front runner. Sunderland are top of the table at the moment. Tonight it could be Burnley. And that's the difference. That's the difference. It could be one of those seasons where we'll have interchangeable leaders throughout the whole season rather than having a runaway favourite. But we've seen seasons start like this, and then when we get to Christmas, when we know Christmas is such an important period, especially in the Championship, a team can hit the ground running and run away with it. But entertaining game, controversial goal. I mean, you just couldn't believe it. I've been reading some of the stuff on X today from, reporters, saying in all my years in football, I can't remember covering anything as bizarre. I think Ted's nailed it. The beach ball was certainly up there with controversial goals. Oh, definitely. And that one will always stick in your mind. I guess for bizarre incidents, though, you look at certain things that have happened at St James's as a Newcastle fan, things that have took your breath away. Probably 2 fighters punching the living daylights out of each other on the pitch. But your entire absolutely mental, absolutely bizarre. But that was a strange. That was just such a strange way to get a point out of it. But you know what? Hey, as I say, Sunderland have found a way again.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that I think it's one of the, closest championships again, Ted. And I think we saw this last season, but then we kind of saw the likes of Leicester, Southampton kind of getting up there and running away with it. Not too much, but they kind of left. There was that kind of top 4, top 5 that were just sort of always there. And then it was sort of, the rest was sort of left sort of pegging for that last spot. But I think it was... For me this season, Teddy boy, looking at the Championship, mate, there is teams all over the shop that I thought would be nowhere near. Coventry City, I mean, down in 20th. Luton Town. Luton Town have struggled to get a win since coming down. You know what I mean? And we've got the likes of still Sheffield United up there, West Brom, who we beat midweek. There is still lots of teams in and around that spot, and there doesn't seem to be any clear favourite. Truly, I completely agree that there's not one in October, but I tell you what, it's shaping up to be one of the closest championships I've ever seen, and I think that's what makes the league so special.
Yeah, 100%.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, certainly in terms of these games here, you're right. Steve's absolutely 100% right. That the league isn't decided at this stage. What this does, though, is results like last night affect confidence. Now, Sunderland's confidence after that is like, hey, we can play to the 97th minute. We still think we've got a chance of scoring a goal. Whereas Leeds will start and actually believe that Leeds are falling apart again, and they will. They will always implode. It's in their nature. If they can't win, they'll try and cheat, and then they'll just fall apart at the end. It's like buying something from Doom. Other cheap and nasty websites are available. It will fall apart very, very quickly. It's a fascinating championship. You're right. I mean, this Burnley, quite rightly, they could go top again tonight, but they've got their big derby, haven't they? It's Burnley Preston today, which is a very, very, very keenly fought contest, believe it or not. Listen, derbies are weird. We know that. So it's just totally unpredictable. It's all about, you've just got to celebrate the good results that you get, but you've got to move on to the next one, which obviously, for Borough today, right, is a tough one, because you know what Watford's famous for. It's gap.
Well, we are going to cover very soon, obviously, Middlesbrough taking on Watford today, and then we've got Newcastle v Everton before another international break, lads. Can't believe it. We're already here again. We're at international break time again, second time
Massively
this season.
hurts our content.
It does. It does. It hurts everything. It hurts confidence. Middlesbrough seem to be getting on a roll. But obviously, it's something that we've got to sort of, abide to now, don't we? It's just such a thing. So, and speaking of Preston in that sort of chat there, Teddy boy, as well, I wanted to quickly chat to you guys about the Preston North End star that was handed an 8-game ban for biting a Blackburn player. Lads, I don't know if you know about this, but Milutun Osamic, oh my God, I absolutely nailed that. Thank you to all my people at home that are playing along with how does Rye pronounce it. He bit Blackburn's Owen Beck last week in the Preston v Blackburn, which is a local derby again as well. He was handed an 8-match suspension and a £15,000 fine. Lads, have you ever come across another player biting another player in your time of watching football? I don't think I've ever seen in my time a bite. I mean, everyone was saying Luis Suarez, your teeth were offside, but I don't think he ever used them.
I did. No, he's bitten around 3 players. I know he definitely
has had a couple of cheeky noms, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was one in the World Cup.
That's right, there was 2, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I'm convinced there was one in the Premier League as well, Steve, wasn't there?
I think so. Yeah.
Did he get 8 games? Do we remember if he got 8 games? I just thought it was incredible to see an 8-game ban for biting someone, but again, not something you want to see at any level.
Not something you see on a regular basis, lad.
No.
I mean, the Suarez penalty was far severer. It was a lot more severe, and you look at that and think, shouldn't there be some kind of comparison? But I mean, I've never, you just don't expect to see anything like that in football. Absolutely bizarre.
Absolutely. It was incredible. All right, let's talk about results.
He must be chewed to bits losing 8 games, though.
Let's talk about results. Coming off last week's pod, we had Newcastle firstly playing Man City directly after the pod ended, actually, Steve. You were off to what ended up being a pretty cracking game and an incredible couple of goalkeeping efforts that I was watching. It was a great game to watch, great showcase again. Man City versus Newcastle ending in a 1-1 draw, mate. But you were there, mate. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was a good game. From my perspective, bouncing back is what I mentioned about Sunderland, and we bounced back last week against Manchester City, and what a team to do it against. I think, the fact that they were missing Rodri with that, season-long injury, and not having the man who turned the game at St James's the previous season available, De Bruyne. certainly give Newcastle a bit of confidence. Our injury list is a lot better than it was last season. Although we did start the game without Isak, and of course Callum Wilson was still unavailable for selection. So we had to go with something a little bit different. We had to go with Anthony Gordon playing through the middle. And I've got to be honest, it worked. The credit really has to go to the back four and the goalkeeper. Nick Pope, when called upon, did what Nick Pope does well. Great shot stopper. I think we all know that his kicking isn't great, but he's a great shot stopper. But it was the defensive performance, and we defended from the front. Anthony Gordon defended from the front, and you've got to give special credit to Fabian Schär and Dan Burn for keeping 10-goal Haaland quiet. And that really was the catalyst for the success. I think the team buzzed off that. They could see that we were doing our bit at the back, and we had to try and push forward and get something out of the game. They scored, and that could have been all the good work could have collapsed. Sometimes your mentality is fragile, and a team's confidence can suddenly collapse, and you find yourself 2 or 3 goals down against a team like Man City, no matter who you are. But Newcastle kept about their business, kept doing the same, and they got their rewards. And it was a well-struck penalty by Gordon. I didn't think there was any issue at all with that. Some people saying it wasn't a penalty. Alan Shearer, of course, came out and said it wasn't a penalty. But I think Newcastle probably could have had, if I'm being generous, 3, certainly should have had 2 penalties in that game. And, I counted ourselves unlucky. I felt we could have won the game, should have won the game, but we'll take a point. And I think Man City would admit that as well. They came off the pitch, and listening to the interviews that they did with the press, they said, we're happy with a point. You don't often hear Man City say that. Pep Guardiola as well was very polite about our manager, Eddie Howe. Certainly seemed as if he was having a little bit of a dig at Arteta, which is fair play to him. That's his big rival for the league. But it was great. And I mean, since then, Newcastle have progressed into the next round of the last 16 of the Carabao Cup with a 1-0 win against Wimbledon, which was always going to be a polar opposite performance with the changes that were made. But the way I've described that on NUFC Matters this week is that it was a professional performance. We passed Wimbledon. We just literally passed around Wimbledon. We just did what a Premier League side should do against lower league opposition, and that was control the game. 80% possession. It was another penalty that that was the difference. Newcastle, Fabian Schär scoring the penalty midweek. But I was delighted with it. We're through to the next round. We've got a really tough tie, of course, against Chelsea in the last 16. But a chance really to put our defeat against Chelsea behind us last season, when, unfortunately for Kieran Trippier, a mistake from him led to us going out. And I'd love to see us beat Chelsea, beat a team that's in and around that top 6 area, and get into the business end of that cup competition, and be able to maybe get back to Wembley this year. But been a busy week, a good week, lads, and one which I've enjoyed.
It has been a busy week. We've also seen the naming of the England squad for obviously the upcoming international break. Big news, I guess, for you, Steve, in there is Newcastle United, Nick Pope getting the nod from Lee Carsley now. Obviously, Southgate gone, Lee Carsley now in, which is still to my absolutely shock. I honestly thought Graham Potter was a shoe-in, lads, but it looks like he's not going anywhere near it. Anthony Gordon selected, but no Kieran Trippier. Obviously, he's fallen out of love at Newcastle as well now as the England team.
He retired. He has retired.
He's retired.
He's okay. There you go. So no Kieran Trippier now anymore.
The missus doesn't want him away, does she?
Anthony Gordon, I don't care about England, up the Aussies. Anthony Gordon gets selected up the front. Dominic Solanke gets called up from Tottenham after his record move to Tottenham as well, lads, which is, no surprise to anyone. I guess the big one maybe is Harry Maguire, who at Manchester United. Any Man United fans in the chat? What's going on there? Apart from that, it's all pretty much straightforward for Lee Carsley, lads, as we move into this. Just a quick glance over the England squad. Is there any surprises from you there, Teddy boy?
No, to be honest, it almost picks itself at this moment in time. I'm sure Spurs are a little bit concerned, though. Solanke's just back from injury, quite a serious one as well. we've got a similar problem with this as well. I don't like it. Dan Ballard wasn't even on the bench last night for us, yet he's got an international call-up. So I'm sure Spurs are not amazingly happy about that. Really, I think he should be pulled. And I think he's an asset to the Premier League. I like Solanke a lot. I've said this on shows we've had in the past. He's somebody who I thought should have went to the Euros with the England side as well. Yeah, it's no massive surprise. I think that England's kind of got an embarrassment of riches at right back now. Trippier has been a good servant for England. Let's be honest about it. I'll give him the credit he deserves. But I think there's so many options there that can be played in either fullback as well. Got the like of Rico at Man City who can fit into that role. Look, let's be honest. Livermento's probably going to be eyeing up a spot there as well. So there's a number of players who can step in and take that role. I think it just depends about. I know Lee Carsley's he's very focused on Alexander Arnold being a right back rather than a centre midfielder. Again, that might peeve off the Liverpool hierarchy because they don't see it the same way. So yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but yeah, overall, the squad almost picks itself at this moment in time, I think. Carsley is a little bit braver, I think, in his selections. I think he's braver with his substitutions in his starting lineups than what Southgate was. So, look, it's international football. I'm already bored of talking about it.
Well, Steve, we'll keep it northeast focused. Obviously, a couple of call-ups.
The shock for me was Livermento. Yeah, I mean, Ted's just mentioned it, but Livermento hasn't really featured at Newcastle over the last few weeks. Tino has been dropped for Trippier. He featured, of course, against Wimbledon, which we expected him to. But that, I guess, for Lee Carsley is, maybe the reason he hasn't selected him on this occasion. Nick Pope, he's going to be part of that goalkeeping setup. Anthony Gordon will be delighted. I mean, he hasn't had the best of starts of the season, but we've had some very honest and open and frank interviews with Anthony Gordon over the last couple of weeks where he's, admitted that tiredness has played its part at the start of this season. And, it's no wonder he's not had a break for 2 years. So, anyone is going to feel a pinch, I guess. But he's starting to regain his form, refine his form, and he was back to his best last weekend against Manchester City. So it was interesting, this week, I think it was Sky Sports ran something on their website to say that none of those candidates which we expected to have been interviewed have been contacted yet. So none of them have been interviewed, which would give you the impression that Carsley's going to have the job moving forward. Haven't contacted Eddie Howe, haven't contacted Potter, haven't contacted Jurgen Klopp.
Wow.
There's been no contact with anybody. So
Michael Carrick?
Nobody's been contacted for the job. So Carsley's got the opportunity. Maybe it's to take the job on, and be the England manager. Maybe all this talk about Eddie Howe especially is just been premature on behalf of the media. But yeah, no real surprises. Solanke, of course, selected. I can see why. Yeah. I don't have the same kind of feeling for Solanke. I certainly think he's overpriced. Ridiculous fee for him.
Yeah.
But he's got an opportunity because we don't have a natural replacement at the moment. I don't think anyway for Harry Kane. Harry Kane is coming to the end of his career, and I think this is the first time in a long time that we haven't had somebody who you would say is a moocher, a goal scorer, a poacher. We haven't got a Gary Lineker. We haven't got an Alan Shearer. We haven't got a Harry Kane, and we've had a conveyor belt of them. But now, who's going to fill those boots? I don't see anybody at this moment in time who can come in and fill those boots.
No, it is an interesting one to watch. I think a lot are predicting that Solanke is that next Harry Kane, aren't they? And I think that's what Tottenham sort of invested in as well. But to see the money that he went for, absolutely incredible. And I just don't think he's at the moment living up to that expectation at Tottenham as well. And as Ted rightly put as well, I think if you're a Spurs fan out there, you're probably a little bit concerned of him getting the call up and having international run in between when they're meant to be having a break. And speaking of a break, lads, all right, we're coming up to halfway through the show. If you're enjoying the Northeast Footy podcast. Make sure you check out NUFC Matters or me, Inrictus, or to my left, Ted the MACKEM, if you're interested in any of the Northeast Cubs.
What if you're not enjoying it?
Well, if you're not enjoying it, then there's other podcasts
it'll get better.
Available. Yeah. If you're interested in jumping on board, you want your sponsor here, we can put your sponsor here. You can sponsor us. Get in touch with any of the three lads. We'd love to have you on board as we take the Northeast Pod to the next level. Dare I say? That's why I'm wearing the bandana.
Ooh.
So professional, lads. Speaking of having a break, Pep Guardiola's back again. He's had enough. He's tired. Rodri's tired. It's something at Man City, lads, in the water, in the wheat bix, in whatever it is, that they're tired. Okay, can we give Man City a break first and foremost? All right, let's give Man City a break. All right, I've had enough of everyone just not giving Man City a break. Pep Guardiola wants Man City's first games of next season to be postponed because of that club, the Club World Cup, which is happening this season. Oh, sorry, this off season. Ted, now we are in the championship. All right. So unfortunately, we're not part of the Club World Cup, even though we were probably invited and just said, nah, we'll leave it to the others. Do you think Man City are in line for having a break after being invited and participating in this Club World Cup? Can you see where Pep's coming from? I mean, we've had Rodri literally a couple of weeks ago saying, I've had enough. Bang, does his ACL. Pep Guardiola's just come out and said, now I need next season to be postponed for Man City. Bang, he might trip over and do his ACL. I mean, what's going on with Man City and them needing a rest? Do you see where it's coming from? Because it's every avenue now.
Look, we spoke about this last week. This whole thing about being tired, it's boo-hoo. I mean, at the peak of their physical health, they should be able to play 3 times a week. We've got a young squad, a relatively inexperienced squad who've managed to do that. We've had pretty much an unchanged lineup for the last 3 matches. We've had 3 games inside a week, and the Championship, let me tell you, is a lot more physical than what the Premier League is.
Not wrong.
You get clattered about in that. Now, for me, it's another ridiculous statement. But there's 2 ridiculous statements here. One is the fact that the players are tired, because that for me is it's not an excuse. I'm sorry, but the size of the squads they've got, they should be able to rotate. Yeah, it's a ridiculous notion. The other just stupid side of this is this Club World Cup. It's literally, I mean, FIFA are pushing the clubs to field their strongest teams and all that sort of thing, because it's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal because let's be honest, FIFA. It's literally their monopoly board has Sepp Blatter where Park Lane should be. You know what I mean? It's like just hand the money over there, It's just another money-making scheme. It's the same as the new format of the Champions League, which I don't like. I'm a traditionalist. I'm in my mid-40s. I don't like change, right? Okay? Mid-40s. I don't like it. Now, I'm watching games during the week. Like, I watch Monday Night Football, for instance. And I see an advert for European football for the coming week. And it's like, it's literally, it's Monday all the way through to Friday. And I'm going, I'm not comfortable with this. I like the Champions League on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the UEFA Cup, which I never watch, on the Thursday. Apparently Middlesbrough win it once. And that's it. It's just getting ridiculous. It's going to come to a point where football seasons don't finish. It's going to be like WWE. It just goes on continually, and that's it. There's got to be some sort of line drawn, because it's diluting special competitions. It's affected the FA Cup in the way that doesn't get the respect that the oldest club competition in the world deserves. They've made the Champions League an absolute joke. Finishing 4th in a league you're not a champion. You're not even second place. Nobody remembers who came second place, let alone 4th. It's ridiculous to have somebody like that in the Champions League. I feel quite strongly about it, as you might already guess.
Just a tad, yeah.
Yeah, it's just stupidity all around. FIFA and UEFA just need to look. Fresh ownership and fresh management is needed there, because they're just diluting the game.
I think, Steve, obviously carrying on from what Ted said, mate, we want get your thoughts on Pep needing a break. Obviously, he's crying out. All these players are crying out. There was a comment there we just saw. We all need to remember players are human like us and they will burn out. We mentioned this and we spoke about this just recently when Rodri came out and said that he wants a break. He needs to sort of, step back from football. Then he does his ACL, funny enough. But carrying on from Ted's point, the money in football at the moment is incredible. From a media point of view, isn't it? Every TV station wants to broadcast it because they know people will watch. Every podcast wants to talk about it because people will listen. Football is a brand, isn't it? And the Premier League, the English system is one of the, if not the most popular in the world. So why not market it? But is it too much?
It's becoming a nightmare. I tell you what will become a nightmare is the more American owners we get in this country. And before people start saying, "We can't say that," you've got to be fair, etc. We will end up Americanized, and we're already hearing, suggestions, thoughts of other things that people want to do. We'll end up playing the game in quarters, not halves. We'll end up with ad breaks, and water breaks, which will be sponsored. And this is the way that gradually we're seeing to be pushed. And again, that's down to money, and it's down to the finances that come with big time advertising. We're already hearing about competitions where they're saying, well, you play a league game abroad. We've already had the failed Super League attempt. I've seen something this week where they've been talking about those who are playing in this club competition in 2025. Somebody's asking for them to have the transfer window opened earlier for them so they can compete for players prior to everybody else. Come on, man. It's supposed to be a level playing field. And for me, it's all wrong. I understand the, players saying that they're going to strike and they want to have, they want to have more breaks. But unfortunately, you're not going to get any sympathy from football supporters who, are the ones going out working 9 to 5 days a week, for crap pay, having to pay, energy bills, which are escalating, etc. And people living on the bones of their backside. But the one thing that they go to on a weekend, for a bit of sustenance and a bit of enjoyment is football. And you're not going to get sympathy from those people when you're on £250,000 a week for kicking a ball around 3 times a week. I'm sorry, and if you're not fit, then or if you're not capable of doing that, there'll be somebody behind you who is. So they're not getting any sympathy off me. Football players get paid a fortune to play football. Tell you what, if you paid me half your wages, I'd go and do it myself as well. And it's no way should they be having breaks.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting subject, one that's going to roll on, and I think that we're heading down that lane, aren't we, lads? Where we're seeing more competitions because it's more money. It's more money in pockets of people that probably don't need it. Do you know what I mean? But it's obviously the fans, following their club. Of course, if Middlesbrough are playing, Sunderland are playing, Newcastle are playing, in whatever competition it is, we're going to be there. We're going to support them. But, at the end of the day, it is, it's a brand, it's a business. We see the likes of Birmingham blowing away League One absolutely incredibly at the moment with American owners. They've got Tom Brady, the ex-NFL superstar, now on the board. They're suggesting of playing Wrexham, who are currently owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney. It's just incredible. It's just, and they're suggesting of playing one of their games in America now. Do you know what I mean? So we're seeing all of this, this happening and this sort of Americanized sort of thing. And we see the NFL, don't we? You can't watch an NFL game without, someone player taking a drink and going, drink prime, halfway through. Halfway through, as he's sort of
it's coming in the VAR breaks. I said this all last season, lads.
It's
when we're waiting like sort of 4 and 5 minutes for a VAR decision, you can't tell me that somebody somewhere is just doing the bean count and going, we could sell that time for an absolute shed load of advertising money.
You're not wrong. VAR brought to you by 3 Bime Lights, the new beer coming out of. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's literally the same. No, I completely agree. And it's unfortunate that that we are maybe seeing that, but as a club that's owned by an English owner, Steve Gibson, Yeah, I mean, Borough just leading the charge here, I guess you could say, out of the Northeast. You know, what can I say? Let's talk about today's matches. Ted, take a rest. You've already played, mate. Thanks to Meslire. Again, shout out to you, mate, for keeping Sunderland top of the league. Hope, Reggie, and your dinner goes well tonight. Stevie boy, you have got a young, certain team that keeps bouncing up and down, up. And he's going to get a lot of this today, mate. 17:30 kickoff. 5:30 kickoff, mate. And it's look, is Isak fit? How's Newcastle lining up today?
No, he's not. He's been withdrawn from the Swedish squad as well, as has Martin Dubravka from his respective international Slovakian squad. So, no Isak. We've been told by Eddie Howe yesterday that he will be ready to return after this international break, which is good news for us. Callum Wilson, Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles, Lewis Miley are also out. But the good news yesterday was that Nick Pope, Fabian Shaw and Kieran Trippier are all going to be in the squad. All were available. Joe Linton is one booking away from a one-match ban. He's had 4 yellow cards already this season, our midfield enforcer. And other than that, didn't really get a great deal from Eddie about the Everton game because the press corps were too interested in asking Eddie his opinions about potentially having a new stadium and leaving St James's Park. Everton got a few injury worries and concerns of their own. Chimiti is out, Broja, Coleman and Patterson. And there was news that emanated from their press conference yesterday that Jared Brantwaite is a doubt after a training ground injury. Unconfirmed reports as well that Vitaly Malenko isn't expected to be involved. So Brantwaite, if you look at the stats, whenever Brantwaite doesn't play, Everton don't do very well. So that is a big plus for Newcastle going into this game. Of course, they started their season with 4 Premier League defeats, Everton, but they have picked up in recent weeks, got a 1-1 draw at Leicester, and they also beat Crystal Palace last weekend 2-1. And the consolation goal, incidentally, for Crystal Palace last weekend was scored by Mark Gahey, who could have been a Newcastle player in this particular fixture. Always like to look at the referees when I'm looking ahead to Newcastle's games. Craig Pawson is the man in the middle. He was supposed to be doing the Wimbledon away game, but was removed from the reversed fixture. But he did take charge of the first game of the season against Southampton and showed Fabian Shaw a red card. So he'll be on his best behaviour today around Craig Pawson, I'd imagine. VAR is Chris Kavanagh. And from my perspective, it's a dodgy fixture, this, for Newcastle, and has been in recent years. Last season, Newcastle, of course, in the midst of their injury crisis, got an absolute whooping there, losing by 3-0. But the previous season, won 4-1. Callum Wilson got 2 goals. Joe Linton and Murphy were also on the score sheet. Year before that, we lost 1-0. But then Wilson on the double again in 2021, when Newcastle won 2-0. And I'll just take you back to 2019-2020 as well, when we drew 2-2. That was a fascinating game. Newcastle were terrible, absolutely awful, 2-0 down. And in the dying embers of the game, they brought on Lejeune, the centre-half. Remember him, the centre-half? Yes, he came on and he got a double in the space of a couple of minutes to salvage an unexpected point in a 2-2 draw. But this is a game which will be all about two people. Anthony Gordon, of course, making a return to Goodison. And, Liverpool fan, of course, will be hoping to do well on his return to his former club. And Jordan Pickford, of course, who loves to play the pantomime villain. He does. He loves to play the pantomime villain in this game. Loves to be the darling of the Newcastle faithful, and it should be fun. Put it that way. But I think when you look at the way the results have gone over the course of the last few years, Newcastle win, Everton win, Newcastle win, Everton win, a draw. I think Newcastle can edge this today. I think it's been a good week for them. They've managed to put in a really good performance against Manchester City, which they'll take heart from. I would expect Eddie to go with an unchanged team today. And I would expect Newcastle to get off to a flyer and Everton heads to drop. I'm not saying it's going to be a one-sided game. I think Everton will bounce back. I think they're good for a goal today. But I am going to go for a Newcastle United win on the road, which would be much welcomed going into the going into the new, the new international break. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, chaps.
Ooh, okay. I was going to go with Desmond today. I just think he just finds a way to get the best out of the Blues to Sean Dyche. And I just know how Pickford steps up for this game. But it's obviously away from home. Look, Newcastle should be taking 3 points here today. I think Everton, obviously, they're just flirting, constantly flirting. Not like you and I, Ted, but constantly flirting with relegation. And it's just at some point, the penny's got to drop. And I think, I don't know how they just keep getting away with it. But look, I'm going at Desmond today just because of the Pickford element. I just love seeing him come up against Newcastle. Let's get your prediction for Newcastle Everton, Teddy boy, and then we've got a certain troll of the week to get to.
Absolutely. I've got a weird feeling this could be. I think it'll be a Newcastle win. I'm horrified to think that it might be a case of by how many. I do honestly think Everton are that bad at the moment in time. I know they got their first win and all that. But they are awful. They are stinking out the Premier League at this moment in time. I do think this is the season where I think it will eventually catch up. I think this is the relegation season for them. Where that leaves the club, by the way, I've got no idea, because the money that's been spent on stadiums and things like that, it could be a very, very disastrous year for Everton. I'm going to go with a conservative 2-0 just out of respect to Jordan Pickford. I do see Newcastle winning this one quite comfortably.
Yeah, look, I've gone a shakingly 2-2, but I'm not confident. I just think Everton somehow they either rock up or they completely and utterly don't, and I think it's it's a case of how they're prepared. But it's time for that moment that everyone waits for, everyone that tunes in. It is time for Troll of the Week, Teddy boy. Over to you, good sir.
And a special shout out to Jules, who's in the chat. She's one of my moderators on the channel. This is her favourite section that we used to put on the Amigos, and she loves the cat. So there we go. It's back, but on this show now, Jules. So you'll have to tune into this to get your fix of our furry friend. And I've got a few today. Some mainly football related. I did like this one from Leeds United. Largy Willie. Very good. From last week's game. This one as well from Joe. Imagine signing a player called Mambo and not giving him the number 5 shirt. Poor form from Ebbs Fleet United. 100% Mags, he says, you found this on Facebook. When the MACKEM stay in your hotel, but you love the tune. Dining room, Sunderland Football Club, and someone's put a little figurine of Alan Shearer in the bottom there, which is very good. Manchester United, constantly on Twitter at the moment and Facebook. Apparently, Ten Hag's been spotted speeding past Old Trafford in an attempt to get 3 points for Manchester United. Good one from the football community. The winner this week, though, for me, was this one. My son's been eating electrical cords. What do I do? Ground him until he conducts himself properly. Oh.
Shocking.
Shocking, exactly. Very good. If you say any tweets of that description, which you would consider a bit of trolling, send them over to me on X at Steve Rate, or send them to Ted the MACKEM, or send them to Inrictus, and we will feature them on the show. Yeah.
That
I
is
could watch
Troll
that
of the
cat
week
for about 5 minutes.
Oh, it's so good, isn't he? He's just so angry, isn't he? He's like you at work, Ted, when you're texting us saying, how do I...
Because honestly, this week, man, this week, I sat in meetings this week and I don't know how I kept my mouth shut. I really don't.
The WhatsApp messages that we were receiving this week, ladies and gentlemen, from Teddy Boy, the manager. Oh my goodness me! Would I hate to have been a young worker at Ted Lane this week? That's for sure. Yeah, copping it, absolutely copping it.
Maybe I'm just getting too old. Can I just do a very, very quick good luck? Because one of my mates, Dave, who I used to be in a band with, Dave Hambley. We had an acoustic punk rock trio called Acapulco. Many
Clever name.
years back. Oh yeah, cool name. So yeah, Dave is playing for Seaton Carew Rugby Union Football Club today. Part of this grassroots thing that Premier League Rugby is putting on is they are giving grassroots clubs a chance to play in Premier League stadiums. So Seaton Carew's game today is actually at Kingston Park, the Newcastle Falcons' home ground, which is a fantastic experience for them. I mean, it's going to be the pre-match game before the big match itself starts. I know Dave's a little bit nervous about going in front of quite a large crowd like that. He's quite a shy lad, believe it or not. So yeah, starting lineup today, Premiership Stadium, and obviously the first pre-match nerves he's had for a long time. So good luck, Dave. Smash it, mate.
Good luck, Dave.
Mate. Good luck from everyone here at the Northeast Footy podcast, mate. We wish you all the best. We love those as well. Lads, we're going to talk Middlesbrough. We've left the best to last, as we always do. Middlesbrough taking on Watford today. We've had an amazing week, has the Borough. We've come off a couple of good wins, a 2-0 against Stoke, a 1-0 against West Brom, and now heading to Watford in our second back-to-back away trip. Look, I have to say, and everyone just take a seat back here and just relax. I have to give a big thank you to Sunderland, because whatever's happened at Sunderland, it's woken the whole Borough army up. Hayden Hackney had what was probably one of the worst games we've seen in a Borough shirt at Sunderland, and now he's just turned into an absolute god. And he's just woken up, scoring both in the Stoke game and midweek at West Brom. Middlesbrough have just found a way again, like Stevie said, and we go to Watford with, on the highest of highs. We've had a good week. We've found a way to start putting it in the back of the net, even though we see teams very, very defensively set up against us. It was causing us a problem, but Michael Carrick, as all good teams and all good managers do, have managed to find a way to still try and get goals past them. We travel to Watford with still some injury clouds. Still, the centre-back issue is quite disastrous. We still without Darragh Lenihan. Dale Fry, who's just returned back to training, he's coming close. Matt Clark as well, he must be close. But the international break, I think, will just gives us a window to rest those three centre-backs. Johnny Howson, our ever-elusive captain, club captain, he'll be out as well going into the international break. It's a tough old game heading down to Watford. My biggest concern from today is last season when we travelled to Watford was the start of our injury crisis. We all saw what Middlesbrough went through injury-wise last season. Steve would be no stranger to injury crises over at Newcastle. Sunderland, for some reason, pay off the opposition goalkeepers and don't need injuries. So it's just... I'm scared of the Watford game because that's where our injury run started last season. We saw the likes of Riley McGree break his foot, or his ankle there. The likes, of Engel, Senny Dieng, and all this sort of stuff all started from the Watford game. And I'm worried about going down to Watford because I've got some bad memories of getting injured on that pitch. But I think Middlesbrough will be heading there with a big confidence boost. 2 good wins on the trot, heading into another international break. Riley McGree is back and firing, baby. Good on you, you big Aussie. Selected again. Australia got a new manager as well, lads. We sacked Graham Arnold. The press conference came out this week saying that due to our games a couple of months ago when they were played in Canberra here, there was a reporter that was in the stands that was shouting, "Get Arnold out," and we finally listened. Who that reporter was is going unnamed.
Did you get tickets again?
So Australia have got
I bet you had to pay for them again as well.
Tony Popovich is in. He is named Riley McGree, and obviously Sammy Silvera as well, getting named as well, even though he's on loan at Portsmouth. That's big game today. I'm going for a big Middlesbrough win. Teddy boy, over to you, Championships expert. You have some recent knowledge of not being able to beat Watford. What can Borough do today?
Yeah, I suppose what Borough could do is follow example from being able to beat Derby. So yeah, you started it. Yeah, to be honest, they're a little bit up and down, Watford, this season. Their form isn't great. That win against Sunderland, which is kind of against form for us, is their only win in the last 5 games. That being said, they are quite a tough team to beat. Obviously, you'll recognise their captain, Sissoko, who's obviously ex-Newcastle and Spurs. He's nowhere near the sort of player he was when he played in a France shirt, because he was never any good in a Newcastle shirt. Like, I think Steve would probably agree with that. Yeah, how you sold him for the money you did was absolutely scandalous.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it was as well. Hell of an agent you must have. So yes, I think Watford do represent a very big challenge. Tom Cleverley is quite organised in the way he has them set up. They are difficult to beat, and for that reason, I can't see past a draw today. They're decent at home. They're quite a sizable outfit as well. They're quite tough. I think if there's any sort of lingering doubts about the back four, and I always believe you should have a settled back four or five or whatever you want to play. I think it should be settled, and I just think that might come into the equation today for Middlesbrough and not be able to keep a clean sheet. However, at the other end, you are seeming to be able to score goals, so I am going to go for a 1-1 draw today.
Over to you, Stevie boy. Middlesbrough versus Watford in the Elton John Cup, as I've just named it right now. Obviously, Middlesbrough 2 good wins this week. Obviously, back-to-back games on the road, though. But have you liked what you've seen of Michael Carrick, considering that the Middlesbrough are now your favourite second team?
He's got them on the up again, hasn't he? And I mean, it was a tough start. It was a slow start for Middlesbrough, but he's found a little bit of rhythm, as I've said. That's important in the Championship. I did have a look at the stats from when Sunderland went down there, and I remember saying that I felt Sunderland were going to win that game. And statistically they should have, but unfortunately, Watford put the ball in the back of the net twice, and Sunderland could only manage it once in that game, and that's the story of the tape in that one. So, looking at recent league form, Watford's only win, of course, against Sunderland. Middlesbrough and Watford are separated by 1 point at the moment. I expect that to be 4 points by the end of the day. I think Middlesbrough will get this win. I think Middlesbrough will win this game 2-1. And I think they'll continue their climb up the table, and I think it'll be a couple of points behind Sunderland going into this international break. But yeah, I see a Middlesbrough win. It won't be exciting. It won't be a barnstorming game. I just think a 2-1 win, a comfortable 2-1 win on the road for Middlesbrough. We'll see them nicely nestled behind Sunderland going into the international break.
Oh, I absolutely love that from you, Steve.
Behind Sunderland, yes. Yeah.
It's going to be a massive game, obviously, and obviously Sunderland playing last night as well. Just going to the comments here as well, I just wanted to point out an amazing one here from Alan Thompson, who said, "Lads, I see the Stadium of Light is empty today, like it was after 80 minutes last night." And
85.
Just realised it was 2-2 today from last night. I mean, excellent point. Watching it on the TV last night, Teddy boy, around the 80-minute mark. Apologies, but the Stadium of Light was getting very light.
I actually commented on this, guys, on one of the fan pages, because I find that embarrassing. I really do. And I stuck it to some Sunderland fans last night, calling it a disgrace that they leave it that. I'm so delighted they missed a goal on the 96th minute, to be honest. There's people making excuses. Yeah, all right, listen. It's a Friday night game. It's a little bit different. Some people have got last buses to catch, that kind of thing. I get that, but not to the number of people that were leaving. And it just looks horrendous. I mean, they're a bunch of young lads. It must be demoralising to see everybody walking out on 85 minutes, which it was. It was 85, not 80, just to be correct. But still, yeah, it's. I don't understand. You pay your money. Why are you not going to go and? It's like walking out of the cinema, going like sort of, I think he might blow that Death Star up. I'm going to go now.
Well, what I've said over the years is, if at the start of next season, right, if somebody was actually, monitoring you in your seat, you'll tend to find that those people who leave 10 minutes earlier, the same people who go down to the half-time pint 10 minutes late as well. So if you add up those 20 minutes, so say let's say in the Premier League, for example, we've got 19 home games. So then 19 home games times 20 minutes, you're going to lose 3 games. So at the start of the following season, you just say to that person, right, what we're going to do is you've got your season ticket, but we're taking the games against Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool off you. And people go, what?
Yeah.
Well, because last season you missed 3 games by going for a pint at half time 10 minutes early and leaving 10 minutes early, and that would solve the problem because people wouldn't be happy. But that's the amount of time they're losing. Those people as well who leave at the end of the game, right, who leave on 85 minutes, especially in the Premier League, the way things are with VAR and stuff, there's sometimes 10 minutes at a time. They're missing 15 minutes of the game. It happens, you know. It's crazy. You'll never change it, though. You'll never change it.
No,
I mean,
not. We've seen results this season, haven't we? 96th-minute winners, you know, equalizers. I've never fathomed it. I mean, even in the Carabao Cup disastrous game, Middlesbrough 5-0 on the night. It was a silly o'clock for me. Stoke, you know, getting 5 up against Middlesbrough. I still sat there. I still did I was still watching my game. I could not fathom leaving 85th minute. When you pay good money, and it's the time to be, you know, at the club and stuff like that. So yeah, come on, Sunderland fans, come on. We're Northeast. We're passionate. All right, we've got the love of football in our blood, and it's not okay to walk out at any time before the game. And of course, Middlesbrough, Newcastle wouldn't do it. Mackem's, all right.
I got called a dictator. Just the people. Yeah, it was definitely dictator. There's definitely a tater on the end. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Right, so we got to talk about Rob Smith as well, guys. One thing that I saw midweek from the Middlesbrough versus West Brom game, lads, which was absolutely incredible, was the linesman, Rob Smith, at about the 8-minute mark, obviously coming off the back of West Brom's game on the weekend, where we saw a fan tragically die, Mark Townsend, who passed away at the age of 57 in the game, lads. You never want to go to football and never return. It was an emotional game. It was the Middlesbrough West Brom game midweek. Because of that, at the 57th minute mark, we knew there was going to be a round of applause. There was going to be, setting up. Well, we saw a very scary incident around the 7th minute mark where the linesman, now the cameras panned to him straight away, and the referee, we didn't know what was happening. The ball was in the back of play, and the linesman was staring blank into space, just standing still, just absolutely not moving. The referee stopping the game, running over. And obviously he'd gotten on the microphone saying, I'm not feeling too crash hot here. Obviously both medical teams come in, ambulance come in, and we see Rob Smith, obviously, who was the linesman, being discharged from hospital and now recovering at home. He's undergoing some further testing as well, and he won't be participating as a linesman again. But lads, we've seen already, in such a short start of the season, we've seen a couple of fans, medical issues at grounds and stuff like that. We've seen the linesman now as well. I wish Rob Smith all the best. Obviously, Mark Townsend from West Brom as well. But it's never good, these medical issues that you see at a ground, especially when it's an adjudicator. It's obviously stopped the game for us for 6 or 7 minutes as we tried to get it. Then we saw the teams warming up and stuff like that. But yeah, a couple of incidents early on, and not only those types of medical incidents as well, but we've seen the likes of Sheffield Wednesday fans popping up once again, Teddy Boy, on social media. We've seen a fan now that's just been jailed, removed of his job, and absolutely, had everything that you could thrown at him, deservingly as well. But just obviously, before we wrap up, Ted, I wanted to get your thoughts on that said fan, obviously, and obviously the passing of a fan during a game as well.
I could never say what I want to say because, you two lads probably do a bit of monetizing on YouTube, and I'm probably going to cost you a lot of money by saying what I really, really think about that. They're just pond life. And I'm not blaming Sheffield Wednesday fans. One of my good pals, Chef Wed Kev, is an absolute great guy. Empathizes with these sort of situations. But once again, like I say, it's Sheffield Wednesday. It was Bradley Lowry who they were who two fans were, goading over last season, was it? I think, last season or the season before, maybe. And now it's look, mocking the dead is just absolutely the lowest of the low. It really is, and I'm delighted that action's been taken where the guy, actions should have consequences. The worst thing about social media, lads, is people have forgotten what it's like to, talk a bit of crap to somebody, but then get a smack in the mouth for it. And I honestly think life has kind of forgotten that a little bit. And all right, you can't physically smack them in the mouth, but what they can do is take actions where this guy has lost his job. He's getting time for it as well. Good luck being passed around a jail cell like a dog toy, mate, because honestly, you're not going to enjoy that much either. Those consequences, I think, are befitting. And I think we need to see a lot more of it. I think the fact that fans on the general, 99% of football fans are amazing people, right? And you know, this show kind of like sort of that showcases the fact that we can get along, we can have a good bit of crack, a good bit of banter, but without the absolute poison that 1% element. It's probably not even 1%, but that poison element can bring. And I'm just so delighted that the majority of football fans are actually self-policing, and they're not afraid to go like sort of, hey, that's out of order. Even their own fans. And you know, shout up and say, hey, that's not right. You deserve that. What's coming to you for that? So well done to the fans that have sort of helped bring that little bit of justice. But anybody who's spitting that kind of poison and bile about people who've passed away, you're just scum. You're absolute scum.
Steve, obviously, just quickly before we end the podcast for another amazing week, mate, just your thoughts. Obviously, social media, something that all three of us live on. For our three clubs, obviously for ourselves as well. But social media having consequences for people that are associated to football clubs, whether they're a fan or whatever it is. I mean, this was disgusting this week.
Yeah, no surprise. Seen it many times on the timelines, of Twitter, Facebook, you name it, X, whatever you want to call it now. It's just parcel of human life, and as Jules probably has covered it perfectly. People forget cameras are everywhere. They think social media is an invisibility cloak. It isn't. Actions have got consequences. And Gary saying as well, Jules well said, the social media companies need to take action, swift action. It will happen. And it is happening. There's no call for it in football. But Ted's quite rightly pointed out, it's a 1%. It's a 1% of fan bases, and the majority of football fans are lovely people, and that's what this show was all about. That's why we agreed to continue doing this after we left the radio. That we thought it was too good.
I'm doing it as part of me caring the community, Steve.
Can I just say that thank you to everybody watching across all three platforms, by the way. We've got 240 watching, so big thank you.
That's
to
class.
everybody.
Spread the word.
No, thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Footy podcast, where we talk Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Sunderland. We bring the three Northeast teams together, even though despite the rivalries, we can have a bit of crack, bit of banter. If you are interested in sponsoring the show or being a part of the show, you can always find us on X or through other social medias at NUFC Matters, at Inrictus, or at Ted the Mackem. As always, my lads, good luck to Newcastle today against Everton. Good luck to you, BORO, up against Watford today. Sunderland, enjoy the rest. And Meslaya, enjoy your dinner with Reggie tonight. I appreciate it. Lads, thank you for joining me. We will see you next week for a international break, Three's a Crowd, 10:30 a.m. UK time every Saturday. Three's a Crowd. Lads, it's been a pleasure as always. Good luck to you today, Steve. Teddy boy, enjoy the break, and up the BORO as always.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.